And then, so this should be okay, because this isn't speaking to that.
Yeah.
This is just picking up that.
I think we're.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
Yep. Thanks. All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to ISASI's second general meeting. Today is a really fun day. We had a lot of new faces. We have a lot of really smart people all basically here in one spot. We're all here to learn and get better. The International Society of Air Safety Investigators Club. If you have not been before, that is what we are. That is what we do. I'm really excited today to just say a couple of things about our club, and then we'll have a wonderful presentation from Captain Stephen Green on Icing, just for your benefit, for our benefit as well. So really quick, the International Society of Air Safety Investigators, we are hosting a couple of different things. On April 1st, we're hosting an airport tour for the Melbourne Airport, as well as the art facility, as well as the tower. So if you all are interested in that, please stay afterward and speak with me. Sign-ups will come a little bit later on, probably about a week to 2 weeks, where I'll send you all a Google form document for you all to fill out if you are interested. For you to receive that form, it's very important for you to join ISASI on Engage. If you do not know what Engage is, just Google Engage Florida Tech. That's your student connection to the clubs on campus. Look up the International Society of Air Safety Investigators and we will go up. Just go ahead, sign in with your pods, click join, and you will be added to our email list. You will get that Google form and you're very welcome to join us on our power club. A couple of other just quick notions. If you haven't taken attendance, yet, Ms. Figueroa is in the back of the room. She'll take attendance for you. And other than that, thank you all for coming out. I hope that some of you who have never heard about us before or coming to the class are interested to join. We'd love to have you here, and I'm going to hand this over to Captain Stephen Green. Thank you very much.
We have a lot of extra seats up here for anyone that's standing.
Right. And also, really quick, another bit of housekeeping. Dr. Lee, would you like to introduce what you're doing on Friday? No? You're really quick. Would you like to announce?
I'm Brian Lee. I'm calling on and I'm talking about the PIO testing for the large pilot and reach out to.
And that will be over in Gleason, so the large auditorium in Gleason. Another thing, really quick, bit of housekeeping. Please, no recording, audio or video of this session here today. That'll also be the same over on Friday.
What I think.
This one's okay.
This one's
If you guys want to record this Friday. Yeah, so if you like to today's the day to do it, but Friday we'll be talking about some fun. Please now.
Yeah.
This will be handy. Thank you very much.
I guess you have to introduce yourself. No. I guess you have to self-introduce yourself really quickly.
That works. Sound all right back there? So good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Green. I just want to put in a plug real quick for Brian's talk. I'm going to be there because he's going to talk about pilot beach operations and boarding aircraft. I've had one. So I'm coming to see what he has to say because I remember what it felt. Anyway, real quick background. I am a retired American Airlines 737 pilot. I started out with TWA for about 52 years. So quite a long time. But I now am retired from the airline and I still do a lot of consulting work. I'm going to talk about the main thing that I work on tonight, which is relevant now at Icing. You guys have probably had some exposure to this one way or another. What I want to try to do is talk about the origins of some of the ideas and see if we can conquer some of the mythology that's involved with Icing, because it's a really tricky topic and it's a real threat for any aviation operations. You don't believe you guys have really retired yet. Two reasons. One is one, you're not flying a lot of things flying, that's second, we're at work. So you know, it's about as far away from your operational envelope as you might get, but believe me, very quickly in your career, it will drop. We want to talk a little bit about what the big picture is with this. I want to try to tie together a bunch of ideas that you can then go out and kind of research on your own and understand. Now, beginning with, well, I'll tell you how I got involved with it, and I'm assuming that since you are all members of an ISASI club, I don't need to say anything about how this may be disturbing, because if you haven't already seen this stuff, you want to do it. So my beginning with Icing was here in Roseland, Indiana, October 31st, 1994. It was the watershed accident for aircraft icing in modern times. I was member of the Air Pilot Association Accident Investigation Board. I just got into a hotel in Kennedy from a trip, and we called it F2 approach in 727. Got to the hotel at 11 o'clock at night, kicked back in my chair, turned on the news. There was a bunch of guys talking about this APR, crash, what might have happened, lots of things that do, stuff like that. And I said, what? What are they talking about? I think we are which accident that we're talking about. And after about 2 minutes of that, on the end table by my bed, my people were talking. And I said, oh, okay, I get it. It just happened. And that's basically what we saw next morning. It was a very large hole around Roseland, Indiana, ACR 72. And I'm not going to talk about this accident that makes police activity, because that's a whole other discussion. We'll talk about a little bit about what caused it. The main thing I want to point out is that's not a new picture. That looks like that was 1994, but in fact, we have plenty of it. The same kind of pictures going all the way back to these cases in 1940, United 21 in Chicago, 1941, Northwest 5 up in Moorhead, Minnesota. You can see the outline of the three there were installed that were rolling off. Believe it or not, the captain is the only driver of that accident. And to give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of people we were in those days, he recovered in the hospital and subsequently participated in the flight tests for the investigation. And then he went back to work as a ferry pilot in the war. So actually, he was killed because of the war. So anyway, we've seen these accidents before. This is not a new idea. A little bit of history. So there are a lot of ideas out there about how much icing is bad, what kind of icing you can accept and not accept, and so forth. Let me try to give you a little bit of history behind what you may read in one of the modern publications. To begin with, beginning in 1929, some researchers, Carol McAvoy, worked with NACA, made this statement in one of their papers. Okay, if pilots can be well oriented in control information, particularly if they can learn that every positive outcome is not necessarily positive. So right off the bat, somebody's trying to tell you that, well, it's not always bad. Okay, so that was 1929 story. In 1932, we have this statement: frost does not adhere to the airplane very firmly and is never dangerous. Well, I can tell you a whole bunch of DC-9 cruises that do it. But that's the kind of thinking that originated that far back. And that kind of thinking is what permeated forward into more contemporary publications. Last one's one of my favorites. Icing in 1948 came up with the idea of meteorologically correct navigation. So if you could just learn where to fly properly, you wouldn't have this problem. So my current consultation work is with the FAA of Atlantic City. We're working on a project called Tailwind, Terminal Area Ice and Weather Installation System. We're still trying to figure out what we would like to do for our plantation. So, this is a great idea, but what are you talking about? How is that going to happen? It's crazy. So, that gives you a sense for the background. Now, that brings us to a really, really key concept. Important for every country that can. What I refer to as the paradigm of linear architecture. So for many years, in the aeronautical information manual, we call the FAA published this diagram. It's a class. 4 forces, low, and fair. And then it talks about the idea that the effects of icing are cumulative. So they're trying to say that drag is increasing, thrust is falling off, all efficiency is still there. Lift lessons and weight loss. Well, we need to think about that a little bit. Does the weight really grow? Well, yeah, but by how much? Over time, the weight's the issue for the airplane. Well, not here, there's that. I mean, if you're in an airship, that's one. Okay. But if you work out the weight of the ice, the typical one will creep, it's never going to weigh more than fuel you burn what you creep. So, in terms of it being a real issue, so what is this all about? Okay, what are we trying to do? Well, if we look at this whole paradigm, what they're doing is building this kind of model. Lift, lessons, plus falls off, plus gravity, lead the way out of it. That leads to the rising elevation. That's a linear equation. That's additive. You're taking each component and adding it up, and you're getting the cumulative elevation. That's not how it works. Really, really important to get that idea out of it. And it's tough because a lot of stuff needs to be kind of straight. Push it still. Cumulative implies winning. They don't necessarily mean it that way. They're sort of suggesting that all of these things can add up to your level of safety. And I get that idea, but the word very strongly suggests it's a linear problem. It is not a linear problem at all. And that's where we get into some real trouble. Now, you guys may or may not be familiar with this. I don't know if you've gone far enough into your training and support to go through the definition of the Icing severity index published in the aeronautical information. But this is a class. We have trace, light, moderate, severe. I'm not going to read all these. I think it's way through the stuff you want to do. Obviously, you see trace, we're talking about less than 1/4 inch, light, 1/4 inch, requires a big cycling, the icing system, etc. And then get on severe, of course, the rate of accumulation such that the icing test is still at you're overwhelmed. But what does this index really say to you here? It's really, let me just put it in simple terms, because there's a lot of verbiage there. You can really make it simple. This is what it looks like. So the grades is a little bad, light is more bad, models is worse, and here it is. And again, it's a really powerful linear profession. And that's where it is. So just to remind you, cumulative is reading down this linear path. Now, we begin to run into some semantic issues. This is, I want to make sure we go over this because you're going to see this through training and you need your stuff around for a little bit. Has been working on this project for the last 25 years. You just can't move it. Go away, change. So we have statements in your non-information language. You're writing, it says in your non-information language, by regulation, you need SUV. Really? Okay. Advisory Chapter 9174B, which is the Icing guideline, says immediate action is required on many government inspections, which is true. Flight manuals and operations of the department. Then it goes on to list a bunch of regulations and suggests that immediate action is required by the regulations. It is important to take note of airplane flight manual regulations and those are after the fact. Oh, my goodness, we didn't know that, so we need to send out information. That stuff is important. But what's the actual regulatory language? There's suggesting that the regulations requiring the exit the actual regulatory language. Except for airplane that provisions in section 44, say, or those for transport category types of food, no pilot requirement. So if you do need transport transportation, you can fly into non-forecast to the by the rules. So there is no regulatory mandate. That's there's a pretty strong mandate there of common sense. Because you're right, well. So when they started suggesting the regulatory mandate, they kind of mix their words. A lot of different language out there, a lot of different meanings, no one way. You have to be really cautious. Yeah, the definition of severe right, creative simulation and such, your hypothetical cannot remove it. So, yeah, we need X. The regulation really say that? Not yet. Not specific. So, does this look linear? Not really. It's kind of an interesting shape. It's pretty simple to go to one, shape. But how does that get created? What's the implications? So let's look at some possible ice shapes, just to give you a sort of sense of the kind of shape that we use in the research. This comes from one study done by Mike Bragg back in 2008. But there are four shapes that they created, and what they do is they create these shapes in icing tunnel, and then they make artificial holes and do that on the earth. It's how we're learning to do it. So we started with a basic roughness, just a little bit of roughness on the surface to the left. A streamline shape is sort of a line-like accumulation, very fluid and so conform to the images. And we go to a horn shape, like I just showed in the previous picture, with a landform, and you can see the profile of it develop on the process. And then the span-like ridge, which is basically what happens when the ice is created behind the ice protection system. The ice protection system things are all up the leading edge and then moves really behind. It turns out that's really best. That's what, so there's four kind of representative shapes. So let's, looking at the pictures, you get a sense of, for example, these two on the left kind of look negative. They're kind of smooth. They don't really look bad. They look like they kind of just sort of smooth. You shape it, or forward a little bit. Everybody kind of gets the form. And that is what's sports. Smooth stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit misleading. So let's take a look at what the effects for these same ice shapes actually are. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with curve fishing on the plot. So I'll try to walk you through it and make sure we have a good idea. The big diagonal black line is coefficient of lift for the clean airplane. And as you can see, the angle of attack moving to the right, angle of attack increases, coefficient of lift increases. Good. So that works fine. The other solid black line is what's known as the pitching line, which is the tendency of the wing to pitch about the center of the position. All these have a pitching moment, usually about the behavior of the wing. It's a little bit artificial, but what we do is block that out, and we really don't want that to change that. We want the pitching moment to stay very steady. So now what happens is you look at all the other plots, right off the lift curve. See if I can make sure I'm only down here. If you go off the lift curve here, eventually different ice caves began to turn the corner here and sort of make a break. We actually sort of places like this, flip, this stall, or flip. The thing that's really interesting about this is notice how all of these spots pretty much stay together, except for that stand line grid spot. That one falls off really good. That's really nasty one. But let me get up in here. The question is, are you going to realize that you are moving this? Notice all the spots kind of overlap each other. So the behavior of the wing is probably not going to be that critical or appear to be that different at that point. Look in that area. Are you going to notice any change there? Probably not. Their plane seems to be doing okay. Increase the angle of that just a little bit more than in this picture. Cool. So the idea that you are going to get is one, that it is a linear progression and the icing effects get bigger and bigger, you're going to feel more and more of the degradation. You're not going to feel it. It's going to be quite almost it's not going to be this sudden clear warning. So if we look at the question then, how does that work with these traits like moderate? I mean, if you look at those flip curves, I don't know, traits like moderate become rich. Not really see. So I get the flip, which is perhaps the face. I don't want it then. So that's point one. Be careful of how the lift curve is affected. Be careful if you're not assuming you're going to have a clear warning by the loss of lift. If the loss of lift is probably going to be used. Next thing to look at is the pitching. So if we look down here, what we see is the black line is flat, fairly flat, that's what we want. One pitching moment is steady. Notice all the ice shapes are changes in the pitching line. And even, much earlier in the stall, might be up here, we're starting to see departures in the pitching line here, which can be, fairly significant. So here's the key question there. The pitching behavior of the airplanes changing. So the question is, are you going to notice any changes to ability? And more importantly, is your autopilot going to notice any changes? Autopilot's not going to notice. It's going to notice it's a terror. It's massive. Until it can't. And then it's massive changes at once. So you'll see a lot of guidance, a lot of icing. You get into these conditions, there's connected to your autopilot. Reading the disconnect and autopilot, you're going to feel changes in the location before you notice the autopilot. So you're going to get a little bit of a warning. Don't want the autopilot. Does that make sense to everybody? I see how that's just a little bit of put the back of your mind. Now let's take a look at the drag. There, you're going to see significant degradation early. Most people that have experienced people in the left seat, they're not having any problem with, they're not having a problem with drag. The drag problem may be sufficient that they are out of power. Don't have enough excess power to maintain the speed. So one of two things is going to happen. We're slowing down or going. And typically the light aircraft, generally aircraft, particularly people that have slightly high performance airplanes operating near their service field because they're trying to cross mountains, they get into real trouble. You can't make them out. So what do they happen? They descend, or they try not to descend, and then the airspeed goes on, and we get back to the previous slide of the stall, loss of control. So the drag is probably going to show up earlier than the other effects. Once you start getting into the drag problem, you can just look at this slide you can say to yourself, I'm feeling this kind of drag, I'm really getting a lot of drag, I'm totally into speed. Just sort of in your mind, go back to the previous picture, I really, really well. It's probably pretty close. We need to manage this. We'll talk about that at the end of it, just how we're going to manage this. So, you're unable to maintain altitude, because what happens if you try to make the altitude? The other thing that happens here in disability is a lot of unfortunate cases. The guy who's into ice, he's having trouble, and he said, "Oh, I better do it." But yeah, it does. Problem is, he still there on ice, and he ends up losing control over the coach, and so forth. Which generally looks back at it, that it's reversal. Point is, just because you think it's far enough to make it work, doesn't mean you're out of it. Once you start the reversion, you still have a complicated situation. You've got to keep that in mind. Very good idea. You really have trouble. You don't have. You get on the okay. Let's talk about another piece. It's a little bit of a shock. What is known as roughness factor, usually the A over C. And basically all this is height, thickness of the ice ratio to the core length. So what you can see here is look at the red arrow, we're looking at an 1/8 of an inch ice on a 20. Green arrow, 1/8 of an inch ice, 5. So with the 5-foot forward, we look at the ratio and give us the roughness. And here, we come up here, we put the ice on the leading edge, we get a 28% degradation in the coefficient of width. If we put it on 5% forward, halfway back on the ice piece, we have 5% of the leading code, 5% back. You're going to get a 22 somewhere. Now this is representative of one airport. This is not the same volume. The idea is you can see the kind of degradation you get depending on where we put the ice shape of the money thickness. You take the same ice shape, you put it in the same place on a 20-foot forward, you can see the degradations are much lower. So what does that lead to? We're having a conversation this morning about the ubiquitous tendency of jet airline pilots and other airlines. And the reason they don't is they never had problems. The reason they have problems with most of the ice there on the roof, not a lot, is high, is not sufficient because of the scale factor. Does that idea make sense? You can get the idea of the ratio between thickness and coordinates. You're at 747, and you put it 8 minutes ice, you probably not notice. You put that same ice in your step, so it's not just the thickness of ice, it's the relationship with the air. What does that lead to? Well, here's a chart of when the ice is reactivated, came to that day. All other issues, but you have the quality of insular. The 244 accidents in 1982 to about a year, a couple years ago, you can see that the greater than 60,000 pound crop is the smallest portion. You're familiar with the new, relatively new, how easy it's old. Part 25, Icing certification rule 25/20. You see in there for the U.S. version, there's a 60,000 pound discriminator, and I don't often do this, but I will take credit for that. Basically, we did that so we could avoid aerospace out of the way. They didn't want to do what we wanted. But I understand that because there's simply not spread. Smaller too. Less than 6,000 pounds folks, they're not actually big as twice as big. You know why? Because those airplanes are unprotected at all. They don't fly. Good. But most of the time, they don't do it. So at that scale, they have a column. So that the largest scale is called 50,000, and the greater than 60,000. We still have to diminish this together. And it turns out the European version of that new light rule is turning out Europeans can bring that. And that's kind of created a block. But anyway, that's the point about scale is significant because if we did a bigger aircraft, people are going to play on the right? That's not a good idea. It does have a level of effect as a general extent. However, if we consider the record of non-splattered jet wings, which there are still quite a few, things like the Fokker F-28, the DC-9, part-wing DC-9, the F-22, they really have a problem with just a little bit of ice. In Continental 1713 and GB7, on schedule, before pointed out that the distributed reference and our case of 1 over 10,000 of the wind field, and remember the quote I put out the beginning on Frost is that was correct? Well, not so. Frost is wrong. Even on a large building. So that's number one. And number two, well, I took the second accident, Ryan 590, and there were 4 pilots. Every couple of them, quote, yes, Ryan 590, another chief engineer said the dangerous reduction in sonar is always occur because of the roughness equivalent to medium grid sample. So that's not very much obvious. We say something later, not fair. There is no acceptable spot. On the other hand, in flight, be a little bit careful when people tell you that big airplanes don't have icing costs. Because the ASRS report, that's the database, 757 approaching Chicago. They attempted to go around at 200 feet, but they do it. They have max thrust, and they get the probably the worst one I've ever seen in any of the videos. And I wish we had known about this today. That we would have all of you we would love to see what problem is the mass level for you on out to later. That's why we big. But what the crew said was 200 feet, the airplane pitched forward severely, go around throttle apply, 50-foot call occurred in the middle of the approach lights, maximum throttle applied, and just barely over. And then they said on arrival at the gate, we found the entire aircraft was covered with clear ice 1 to 2 meters. So most of the time we don't have a problem. I've never had a problem with this. Don't get too caught. Because you're a big airplane. Okay. Next item on my calendar is wonderful idea of ice bridge. You know it's common. The reason we started having now is the icing group, somebody in there. So how does the icing group work in that group? Band with air pressure, the idea of the brake size, and then the boys and the cycle. Somewhere along the line, many moons ago, we got this idea. This is from a 1943 publication, the Civil Aeronautics Board. If the aircraft, you took the leading edge, moved the ice, allow the ice to form to the next step, and back off. Using the ice to periodically the ice form. This prevents the ice from forming a pocket, which we expect. The bridging idea is to expand the ice, stretch it out. And then the boot going to deflate and the ice stay there. Now the boot is working. And let's think about that for a second. can stretch the ice in pockets. In the pockets, sustained structure and improve the base. I mean, throughout the wind. How that actually do? Not very intuitive. What to do. Now, there are a couple possibilities. Old the ice system, you can create something like that, magic, very slow and steady. And stay for a long period of time. So there is a possibility that you could inflate the roof, leave it that way for a while. You know, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, enough ice to build up the ground. If you look at the magic wants to do not look that way. It's very rapid inflation, bang, inflate, bang, and quicker type of cycle. The other possibility is that what we're seeing is a residual ice left over. And the important thing to understand here is how many cycles of the roots it takes to leave the ice. Not just one. That's the problem. People will play the roots and say, I got a little roots, top of the roots, they look out and say, oh, I need to open the ice. So the feeling is it must not be working. Well, it turns out it takes a little more than just talk. I do want to point out that in the Icing database, looking back for 1980, literally committing, there are 0 accidents. There are however plenty of accidents resulting in the delay of activation. People say, I didn't want to put it through. I was afraid of it. We didn't charge it. Well, I got it. I don't think it's as I said, most likely the early cycle residual ice. Let me just explain what that means. I should point out that there are manufacturers still recommend 2 ways to have one. There are a lot of reasons for that. That's where you're going to certificated. They don't want to change that because they haven't done the new certification work on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, comply with the manufacturer's recommendations. In some cases, grand quality different. Aware of this component. Now, turns out the guy in both back in 86, a whole bunch of these. He was using an active level 11 critical. This could be true for a lot of airflow that just have to do on the team at the time. What he did is he put the drag without operating that and drag. He did operate. How does it work? Well, you can see that big long curve up there is the no operation. That's how the drag coefficient is going way up as we go left. So then the next thing we do is suppose you cycle it one time. So blade roots, bring all the drives, and then you don't cycle them again. You basically delay the onset of that increased drag coefficient. You're still going to get it later. You only get it once. Now you could have. On the other hand, if you look at an automatic system, like most of your large triple props and so forth, you're going to have a timer, typically 3 minutes, something like a fast like 1 minute. You can set that timer and just run it. Notice the ice period that you use is 3.9 minutes. Look at the sawtooth pattern we have down here. That's what he's getting by cycling the roof 3.9 minutes. Okay, so tell you a little story. In the back one back in the 80s, we had an auto cycle. And not only did we all knew like pretty good stuff, so we went that. We were always, window and we were pointing foods, breaking off artists. One night, I don't remember where I was coming from, west of Richmond and really getting this body and we were busy on the hill. And I just did not have time. I just said, all right, screw it, we found got distracted by all the other stuff going on. 10, 12 minutes later, I thought, geez, looked out, clean this. Ooh, it's working beautiful, you know. And that's what we really got to do. But the point is, the first couple are not quite as routine. Because it takes 2 or 3 or 4 cycles to actually go as cleaned off and develop a consistent pattern of what we call intercycle, which is what builds into cycle. And residually, what's left after the always we want to do these little possible. We've always been stuck. And we want a consistent pattern. That's what the group is designed to do. One other thing I'll add is most pneumatic roots are the material that have to be maintained. If you don't take care of your roots, they're not showing. They have to be lubricated or salted ice sacks, those other compounds that are used. You have to maintain the roots. Whatever you want here, and you do it, you really start in the problem. So to get this chocolate pattern of the roots, food maintenance. Okay, so by the way, I noticed this particular research is 2.7 pounds for the stand iceberg. Just to give you a sense. Okay, the FAA did a bunch of testing on scale and ACA 12 world, real typical elevator airplane, molding airplane world, 17 meters, 23 B2 22 the APR is 43 we're really common elevator because of the fishing services. So they did a bunch of scale testing on a representative airfoil. They came out with statements like this. 2002, the food cycle, efficiency, visual, and possible activity. So that's the plan how you get across. You have to be patient, you have to let these things do their job. If you don't have an auto plan, most light twins do not. You can manually do this as long as you are fairly disciplined about getting on it and do it. If you want to go ahead and come to the roots, run go through the cycle, up necessarily back to the roots. Don't worry about checking to see if it's not on fire. Just keep cycling the roots going. They did a bunch of other testing. They mentioned that they were just as effective when they were activated 11 seconds from the start as they were if you waited for it twice. So that's another feature. Just getting started, don't worry about waiting. Which again applies to the phase of the manufacturer's recommendations. That's kind of what the rest of it. In 06, they did the same thing. They had pretty much the same results. So the key point is just the multi-cycle. So let me show you the effect. In the accident data. Okay. If you don't operate the accident data, you get that. Because if you don't use it, you don't have profit. You can't trade that. If you operate the idea at less than 4 cycles, you still good slight time. And I was able to do this by reading lots of pilot reports and statements. These are the things we do. All of the data don't have data to not for how we do. So all I know is what I know is basically what it came down to is less than 4 cycles, still have lots of problems. Unknown cycles is a little bit less, we really don't know how many times it's cycles. Guys that know operated manually more than 4 times have a better performance than we do now. And that's really all I'm trying to get at. When we have the auto operated product, which you have to do this smaller size, the point is, multiple operations, it's not going to get rid of the other. And eventually we get to the steady state. That doesn't mean don't pay attention to it. It's not working, but it's just something, Because the cycling over the time doesn't mean it may not be working. Check it. But it's a multi-cycle for us. Okay, next effect. This is a big one that a lot of people may have heard of. If you have a aerodynamically balanced flight control, it's not losing. If you all apply, it's what we call a reversible flight. How do you know if it's reversible? Well, go out to the free flight, grab the aileron, move it, wheel turn, it's a reversible flight. I do that on the 737 apps. Vertical way goes is narrowed into the bounds. When you begin to separate the flow because of the ice that you're going to stall, the region of separation migrates half across the wing. This table is a lot of table. The bottom. Say like it is the ground. Region of separated flow migrates back across the core of the wing until it gets to the leading edge of that area. And then it disrupts now. And to go far enough, it creates a suction area there, and we have an effect on the smash. So the control is literally smashed and moves to a full deflection without any input of you. Still works. We get the air from the lower effect with the pushing effect, but you don't have controls. That's what happens over. They traffic the clock coming out of the holding pattern and it was pretty slightly, and the close operation over the top of the aileron, the destructive, the others. So this is the same thing that happens in IQ memory of airplane stuff. Not for any airplane subject then. Important to understand. It was a big threat 20 years ago. It's not a threat, it was. I guarantee you, the way airplanes do it. So, I just have a airplane stall, the same effect. The elevator is smashed down, the nose goes straight down. And you may have to pull rather hard to overcome that imbalance. A couple other things happen before that. One of the things that can happen is you can have a change in the stick point rate. This is a really nasty feature that might be done with the port stuff. So, just to give you a general sense of what's going on here, we want it to stable. We want this, the stick board gradient to increase as you pull the stick, push the stick. We want more of the push and pull. What happens if that gradient doesn't change? So you pull the nose back and it feels the same as it did when it started. There's no stick at all. How does that affect your workload in your stability? I think you can kind of get intuitive sense. It's kind of the thought. What happens, typical ISASI events, you're on an approach, it comes down a 3-degree glide path, they get a little bit high, you push the nose down, let the elevator down, that enhances the flow separation, you get below the glide slope, because we got much more deflection than expected, you got a push, so the stick with gradient will change. You get a low glide slope in Peloton, so they pull the nose back up, and now they get lots of deflection, much more than they expected. They go way above the glide slope, and they, oh my God, we're in shoulders, so they show the rope forward, and that's all it takes. You know, they snap you, and the nose goes straight down. So, stick force gradient is something you're looking for. Again, that's why we want to all have it connected, because we want you to be aware of this. Now, long before I knew anything about this, I was first off to land radio and conduit, very late stuff, for days. And we were running this all the time. I mean, we didn't have to see outside, we really do VHF stuff. We came across Lake Michigan one morning. I was flying, and it was like right in places around the world. It really was kind of school. That was very, very, I'm not saying unstable, but it was not the stable airplane. We landed, got to the gate, we ran, crash supervisor came out, looked at the airplane, ran back and checked, and we shut down, came back in out with a bottle of scotch, 2 cups, and literally caught ice off the airplane in cups. We came down the ladder before it was like the conveyor was highly subject, but I didn't know. I'm pretty sure we were pretty close to the edge. It's a little bit unnerving to think about. So anyway, stick force gradient. Now, here's yours truly, way back in the 90s, we were filling in bricks and auto of NASA equipment. We just finished doing some demonstrations with Twin Otter. We had ice shakes, food, and tail. We went out and demonstrated the skateboard radiation, and we demonstrated the elevator smash phenomenon. So rather than thing. To give you an idea how powerful it can be for Twin Otter, the most that Rich ended up dealing with in flight testing was 170 pound full to get the nose back up. Then, but maybe what you do, it's control. Common after that, that's what I have to do. And that shape was done. So that's the kind of threat that shifting the aerodynamic balance. And that's another threat for us. That's a really important one to keep in mind. Last one I want to go through is this drag. This is a big one. You're gonna run into this before you run into it. And nobody talks about it. It's amazing. So back to Dean Bowden's work with the drag curve. And I want to try to, what he's going to do is he's going to say, all right, let's start at 2.3 degree angle attack. Because that's what spring. And if we look over here at the 2.3 degree coefficient of lift for go to 2.3 degree angle attack, we'll often get a lift coefficient of about 0.2. Right? Now we use that 0.2 and over to this drag curve. And we've got a bunch of curves. I'll try to walk you through this thing to see what's going on. It's kind of cool. Particularly since he was doing it in 1956, nobody thought it was sense. You come right up here, you get a bare airfoil coefficient of drag or about 0.075. We're going to see that in the spectrum straight. That's the bare airfoil. Now, let's take the ice airfoil to 2.3 degree angle attack. Come up the same way, move it up, and we get a drag coefficient of about 0.01. So there's a delta, it's a change. You get more drag to this at 2.3 degrees angle attack. So that's kind of the change. The boxes indicate the change, the drag from clean to ice. Now, we'll look at the ice if we accrete it at 4.6 degrees, double the angle of attack. So now we have a different lift coefficient, that's the green arrow, over at about 0.38, and we'll enter at the bottom of 0.28, go up to the clean airfoil. Right there, we get a drag coefficient on clean airfoil of 0.008. So we accrete, now that's a higher angle of attack, we're going to get a drag coefficient. Now, we'll move up to the ice airfoil at 4.6 degrees. And we get a drag coefficient of 0.092. So you can see there's actually less of a change at 4.6 degrees than there was at 2.3 degrees. Okay, that's cool. I think everybody wants this. Here's the cool. Let's go back to 2.3 degrees. So here we are, angle back 2.3 degrees. Just do the question. What we just did. We come up here, that's our bare airfoil drag. There's the iced drag from being accreted the ice at 2.3 degrees. Now, let's increase the angle of attack to 4.6. With that ice that we picked up at 2.3 degrees. Follow the red ball up the curve and across there, and we get a drag coefficient that's much better than we would have if we accreted it at 4.6. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Rather than a single angle attack, we're picking up the ice at a lower angle attack, and then we're pitching up and increasing the angle. What's that? That's flare. That's what you're doing when you flare the airplane. So you came down the road and you picked up the ice, and you knock it out and flare. What happened to your drag? Went right through the road. Much different than the drag. What's the effect of that in the world? Well, take away this. Look at that big blue slice. That's just under half of the serial icing action or carbon. No kidding. This is exactly what's going on. Pick up some ice, stable approach, everything fine, and there. Most of the time, only gets hurt. This is that far, embarrassing, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes what it is, most of the time, it's very accurate, you do what damage to it. So, the issue there is the end of that. Need to be on top of it. You understand, so you look good. Bring on ice on the approach, you know, this end of attack. You're probably going to incur substantial revenue. How do you deal with it? Well, most manufacturers are going to put it as food. You're going to bring the rescue. So you fly to go to the back. So there's a little bit of extra energy, you might get ready. Okay, does that make sense? I mean, I know so the plots were a little bit hard to follow, but what is really interesting to me is that any of the official publications about it, nobody talks about this. And I don't know why, it's such a huge tribute to that. Anyway, okay, complexity. I'm going to wrap this up right here. What are we really talking about? It's a really big, crazy idea to get around. I think it's a perfect way to start thinking about it. Everything you've been taught in school, day one, has to do with the other. We talk about Icing not being in complexity is the study on the respects, okay? So the definition of this basically is generation of rich, collective, and natural behavior, simple interactions between large and little structures. What would those be? Droplets. Droplets. Really droplets. How they interact, what's going on? There's dynamical behavior and interactions with those subjects. It's not linear, very sensitive to initial conditions. It's the key concept a lot of people have trouble with. Okay? When we talk about being sensitive to initial conditions, we're talking about several thousand conditions to the right of that. Everyone time. That's okay. This is the origin of the phrase you probably all heard. Butterflies being flying over the earth is further than murder. That's the ideal of that. The atmosphere is sensitive to conditions. Very sensitive. So you're not going to predict it very well. You can kind of get on the deep, but you're not going to get on. It's an open system and it features emergence. Some of the output is less than or greater than some of the everything you can talk really from elementary school forward has to do with the sum of the individuals that you have. We're talking about something that would have. It's different ideas for the folks who can get. For now, key concept is it's not real. That's important. Okay. Complexity and icing. Atmospheric icing is what we call a weakly complex system. A weakly complex means it is predictable in principle, but not constructible. So we know it happens. I have a good idea what some of the effects are. We have always plot components, stuff like that. It doesn't mean that's the idea. You can't predict that. And you have all these variables interacting to create an icing environment in the weather, in the atmosphere. You may or may not have it, you may have it for a few minutes, you may have it for a long time. This altitude, not that. Highly variable, highly dynamic, non-linear environment. It's a weakly complex physical system in the space on the wind. What dictates that ice? All those variables apply. So you don't really know what the ice is. It looks the same as the one you saw last week, but it's not quite. And that's where we think about how we live, which is one that is assuming it's the same ice shape. Predictable in principle, but not in practice. We kind of just understand. Where does this lead to? How do we ensure safety in a non-linear context? It kind of wraps this whole thing up, this whole model of thinking, which I'm going to advertise as a book card spring to a lot more than I basically a regular template for looking at this. How do we do this? Step one, check the margins. So that means additive, de-additive, controlling angle of attack, not pushing the edge, but not go all the way up to the cliff. It's building margin there. Protect margins, as if they are solid limits. They never cross the margin. The margin is there for the things you can't anticipate. Don't want to willfully say, I'm just going to use a little bit of margin. You always use margin, protect the margin, always protect the margin. Next thing, and this means things like don't touch, take off, must be plain here. It's got to be clean. Doesn't mean the ice property is not good enough to it. And happens over and over. Taxi out, and after a while, flood in the fall up. So somebody back here doesn't like to win. Look at the wind, it's back and forth. For that, don't accept any contamination. Don't pull your airplane out of the hangar, out of the warm hangar in a snowstorm, and then go foul the flight. What's going to happen? Means one, snow's going to happen. It's going to be for peace. It's going to be colored. So I get it. I hear that. That's started in the hangar and going out on the road. That's worth it. Okay. Operate all the ice protection systems forward. Stay on top of it. Don't wait. Don't still run. Don't wait. We don't need it. Took off out of the water in 767, climbing out over the mountains. And 80 yards up there, we reported severe like we're looking out. We don't see anything. Once you get away from that, it's all you see. We don't see anything. Not waiting for all the good work. Relief products get ready for that big break. So I tell you what the wind, comes back up it's rough, it's far down. There's good ones with the initial website, all the way there. Never saw them initially. But I'm thinking, no big deal. I thought, how can the ATR be close to zero? I realized it's speed not the same place, Hey, operate all the ice protection systems appropriately, comply with the AFM recommendations. Please make sure you know what those are. You've got to really stay up to date with the different flight managers. The manufacturers on none of them lists. Use the auto cycle option to manually cycle them often. Apply with the speed additives. One of my favorite stories of that is Metroliner had a speed additive in ice of 19 knots on the recipe. So two lady pilot trainees, we were not free, we had their back in the use, and they were upgrading captain, and they were up going up Charlottesville, the treatment line, the middle of the we got through some clouds, cheese clouds, way up there. First guy could not get it easy. I mean, and she gets frustrated. Right. Okay. So I said, let's switch to see what happens. The other candidate was up there. And she said, you mind if I load the roof? So we said, all right. I said, we can. I don't think it's good. She placed those 30 minutes forwards. Ice off the market, sliding across. She said, I went back to it. And the first two, a good friend, I couldn't get aware of what does it say in the green? How much do we add the recipe when we have ice? And I want to hear it. I hear you say it. It's 3 o'clock. That's why it is. They're off. The manufacturer's reputation is right. So that's important. Manage the angle of attack. Not just the wing, tail. How do you manage the tail? Okay. We didn't talk about it much, but if you're susceptible to IPPS, either reduce flat plate or the rush. You keep the flat plate away from the full flat plate, downwash hand on the tail should stay with the smaller bit. The IPPS where it really shows up in the flat. It's downwash hand, force down, that's what it really is. And be very cautious when you're changing anything. Road lawn crew, getting out of the holding pattern, 175 pound exertion, unrelated to that, was not flat, 15. Taking out of the holding pattern and started down, and we sped the flaps. Captain said, I knew we would do that. And we retracted the flaps. What happened when we retract the flap? Then we freeze. And I will add to their defense, what's the first thing you do when that happens? Just retract the flaps. We re-extend the flaps. That's where we found the flat handle, 15 degrees retest. Fortunately, we already decided that we continue to overrun so far. So we tried to do that. Fat margins. Tech margins, fat margins. Got a really bad day, add some margin, add a little bit of speed. Increase the speed attitude, flaps. Anticipate instability, talk about that. Control force changes, autopilot off. Get rid of the autopilot, get a hold of the airplane, feel a little cool. Pitch instability. And the last thing is on the rapid airspeed launch and flare, we talked about that. The last thing is get out of conditions. Just exit the condition, find your way out, and do not get into that room. You should have an idea where's the freezing out. How low do I have to put the walls? Where can I get through the plot? Where's the cloud there? Cloud tops, by the way, one of the worst icing environments for them. So when you come up to the top, the freezing. Anyway, lessons we can learn from an ISASI standpoint. Shift gears, the piloting standpoint, and the investigator standpoint. What are the lessons we learn? One, how much of our safety paradigm is predicated on nuclear stuff? Talked about a lot of historical information, fed paradigm we use today. What about everything else we do? How do we know that what we're working with is accurate information? Or how much of it came from a historical data that was misinterpreted? How much of what we think we know is what we call normalization of deviance? The simple definition of normalization of deviance. Misinterpretation of experience. We have a lot of experience with misinterpreting. How do we do that in ice? My favorite, this is a classic. Okay. My airplane can carry a lot of ice. Carry a lot of ice. Carry a lot of ice. That was a really solid airplane. I mean, yeah, no idea how close that could be. Should have been sitting right there. How much knowledge is actually new? The point I've made throughout the evening is how much has been done for decades and not talked about. How does incorrect information influence action investigation? Which is a question we need. I don't know the answer to this. You work. We have it right. We really know what we're talking about. Let's dig it out so we understand. None of them just take it face value. I've taken a lot of time, a lot to talk about. I hope I try to tie it together to the entire picture of the Icing fields. Anybody have any questions? I mean, I don't know if you want to take time. Oh, somebody keep asking me that. Oh, let's see here.
Let's send it out.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I will tell you that you don't worry about buying it yet, because the way they do this hardcover version is $100 for it. So they're waiting to see how many of you don't want to do that. And then once they decided they kind of built it for all again, I think then they come up with talk about it.
It's pilot competency and capability, responsibility, strategy, and command.
It talks about a lot more of this. I bring in somebody else in commodity. That's not what it's
A question on Rose Lawn, were they at 175 knots just because that was the limit, or did ATC told them You know,
That was the total
that's
profit.
a real problem. And so it brings up a point, and I've seen this a lot of times over the years. You don't have terrain. You can ask APC, and you should ask APC to fly like that. You're going to fly faster.
Well, in this
And-
case,
Yeah, unless they're, look, I mean, if all it is the airspace is a holding pattern limit, you can ask APC and to keep you within a certain airspace. As long as they approve it, you can fly that faster speed, unless there's terrain around, and then they might approve it when they shouldn't, because APC will do that.
Yeah.
But if there's not terrain, it's just traffic, APC knows that. If you say, we need to fly faster to keep it clean, well, we do it all the time. And I see people all the time trying to slow down near like bottom margins at higher altitudes because of these stupid airspeed numbers that they see in the book, instead of just saying, no, we need to fly faster, and you can do that.
Between, small warning, speed, they're rated 165. So 175, 180, about close to that. When they put out flash between that margin, about 165.
Yeah, but instead, just say, ask ATC, can we stay at 200 knots? When we're up at cruise altitude, we stay at 300 knots.
They have no, I mean, they didn't know anything about this. Okay, just a quick story about that. That happened to them less than 2 hours later. Same airline, American Eagle, ATR-72, South Indiana. As they came down to the icing, they started to get vibration. And what is that? Look, the boots are working, all the fire, the boots are working. Captain looked at the bolster that's go out of that span like we did. Really nasty, really fine. He accelerated, increased speed, we didn't do anything, we didn't slow down, so I don't care. He never felt anything. They had the opportunity, but the vibration. Both on cruise in a different dynamic car, so moving the flaps, decreasing the angle, we went right over the pressure, about anyone. And we're not able to recover. Would you recover? Yes, you will have. But they did not, there's no way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
But since you're so into this subject, I was flying the APR. I wonder why, after all this incident, the procedure, when you have the icing condition, you have to fly.
Yes, well, that was, that was their choice because of the leak. And the holding pattern at 175.
No, after incident.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
After incident.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The procedure
Right. Flash. Yeah.
issued by manufacturer,
Yep.
which we actually know and comply was by handle the icing condition.
Because that increases your margin. Give you a higher margin. That's what they're trying to do. The question would be, why did you design an airplane that has to do? But that's all they're trying to do. They're trying to build margin. And which is fine. We've got flat.
Well, I think it's a topic that we probably need to talk about tomorrow, is that the air traffic management requirements are not really well aligned with some of our requirements on the airplanes. And that 175 knot to 230 knot, those numbers are just not realistic in the environment we're flying. We don't need them. We don't even need them anymore. We're not in a non-radar environment.
We have one more.
Yeah, it was about the pneumatic foods. Most are made of neoprene, the heavier. You encountered a case where that neoprene has ever broke.
Oh, yeah.
And the ice eventually builds up and then they can't do anything.
That's the problem. What I'm thinking about maintaining foods is don't lubricate properly and use it tissue. You'll crack or less effective, particularly with the fusion. Maintain it properly, so that the less the use of the ice. So when you do it, and you either get to the top. If they're not maintained well, you're ready to go on the grip on the surface. It doesn't go well. food failures, obviously. Food failures. But basically, we didn't go to rural ag agriculture. I mean, food supply. The reason we use food on the airplanes we do, we don't have enough extra energy. We use them too. When it's something like C-130, it does really food. Nobody needs food for that. Anything else? Yeah.
Wrong line, as much as they hear a lot of community about it being non-classical, where the coalescence not recognized in time, like the classic breeding ring process. Do you think that mattered for the incident itself?
No, but they would not have any necessarily released the information. What mattered to the incident was nobody understood the concept of freezing river law, the freezing rain law. Everybody kept thinking one way, service before the meanwhile, the ISASI certification envelope is limited to MPC, small droplets, never bothered with the large droplets. We just started talking about large droplets. But they don't have. And they did. That's what happened there. So in terms of the political, that's just a way of understanding more frequent thought.
Right, but for the pilot, they see the icing going on, right? It doesn't matter how it happened, right?
That's right. It does, the only thing that matters is understanding the large droplet. So what is large droplet ice meaning, and we talk about that in the detail, basically where the big drops are going to be farther back in the room. So if you're going to have a grid behind you, that's the large droplet, the real large droplet. System on the airplane, typically it's small droplets, not the large droplets. Anybody else? Everybody's tired?
I didn't think you've got to have something else. I don't know if that's something.
I'll say real quick before anybody moves, I'm gonna take a photo here.
You wanna get?
If everybody's okay. Yeah, do you wanna? Take this? This way we got everybody. Oh, do you mind coming down?
Go down here.
That, if that's all
Probably
right.
better go down here.
Yes, we can get this for our official access.
Right, your Instagram.
Yeah. Well, everybody, actually, I'm not gonna do it for wide. But everybody, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
You don't want to go pan.
Really good camera. If you guys haven't taken attendance, you're very welcome to come up here and get credit. If you like with Jackie, don't take your attendance, get your report out if you have, other than that, thank you all for coming. Make sure you.
So this guy, uninsured.
I'll go through it. I got you. You got me also. Thank you. Sorry, Lord.
So, perfect. Wider discussion.
I tried to do it.
I didn't.
So these are the people, just hit this and end.